everybody hits the field. Of course, they're just going to be running around for a few days, but popping pads here before we know it. Get us ramped up on what is going to be important for the next 4 weeks for this LSU football team.
So, Mark, I know you cover like all the teams, right? And you hear this all the time, right? Well, our school's strength coach is the best strength coach in all of college football. Now, the truth is, Lana, I mean, Mark, I know you hear it all the time because you do cover every last 100 gazillion team. And that is like the number one thing. Our strength coach is the best in the business. So, as far as like the offseason is concerned, obviously there's like a lot of stories surrounding like LSU recruiting. Obviously, they get a big story with Ricky Collins, a quarterback that decommits from Purdue. He probably will be committing with LSU within the next week or so. What's really interesting though was this was LSU's first offseason not under Tommy Moffitt's leadership in a long time. So Moffitt used to be at Tennessee, and he's been at LSU through, and this is what's really fascinating about him. He's been at LSU through 3 different coaches. So he was there with Saban, he was there throughout Les, and he was there throughout Orgeron. And obviously it was time for a change, and Moffitt was really good, and they bring in Jacob Flint. Now, what's really interesting about that is normally when a new head coach goes somewhere and they want their strength coach to go with them, the strength coach normally goes with them. But Bayless, the strength coach at Notre Dame, decided to stay. So Jacob Flint from Notre Dame came to come run one of the best programs in the country, obviously LSU's strength and conditioning program. And, Lon's got a ton of sources. He's probably hearing the same thing. It is very interesting, Mark, how a lot of players' bodies have changed. It does seem like the nutrition and all of that has changed behind the scenes at LSU. Now, here's what's cool, Mark, is everybody's got this catapult technology and all these different things, but it is very interesting to see how LSU's conditioning is going to be with someone else at the helm. And Mark, as you know, strength and conditioning coaches spend more time with players than anyone else. So tomorrow's going to be the first day that the strength coach is no longer the focal point, and now the actual coaches are really going to actually start coaching because they actually get back on the field.
That's a great point.
It should be fun though. Lon, I know you've been talking about the behind the scenes and stuff. How do you feel about the behind the scenes movement for LSU right now?
You mean, are you talking about just fall camp, or are you talking about
fall camp? How do you feel
for fall camp? I mean, it's very interesting because we bring in 7 transfer defensive backs.
Yeah,
7. And you see some stability with like maybe Mekhi Garner, Joe Fuchsia, Greg Brooks Jr. looked awesome at times in spring, but like, are any of these guys really proven, at LSU? And you said Tommy Moffitt, been there since I think it was January 2000 when he was appointed coach, like a few months into the Saban reign. And then you got Corey Raymond, who was with LSU for what, like 13, 14 years or something. This is going to be LSU's first season without Corey Raymond. Can DBU reestablish themselves brick by brick in a way via the transfer portal? A lot of guys, I think almost purely outside of Sevian Banks, all Louisiana guys. I think just looking at that list, I think Sevian Banks, Orlando, outside of him, all Louisiana guys, either coming home or, being picked off from, smaller schools with McNeese, stuff like that. This was smart recruiting, or will it blow up in LSU's face for a season while they kind of figure this out? I'm not too sure, because I think this DBU, people are selling it short. DBU 2022. Jay Ward was fantastic last year. Led LSU win interceptions over the last 2 seasons. Sage Ryan, will he be able to really make an impact here at nickel, or is he going to be moved back to safety, play at corner? That's the thing. DBU, we got torched for big plays, big play after big play, explosive play after explosive play in the passing game, which was shocking. with Corey Raymond on staff the last years. And you can even count, there's some games in 2019 where, you know, he got torched for some yards there. Texas comes to mind as one of those games. But, you know, DBU is one thing I'm looking at. Offensive line, where do these puzzle pieces fall with Brad Davis? Is Brad Davis going to like really use his cross training obsessions and you know, Marlon Martinez, a guard, is he going to be the starting center over someone like Charles Turner, who took all the first team reps through spring? That's huge deal. That's a huge deal. We heard Brad Davis reference Marlon Martinez being the center twice, once in spring, kind of in some interview with Jacques Doucet, kind of an obscure thought, but one I held on to because it was like, he just said Marlon Martinez first, or it was like, what? He really made a point of emphasis with Marlon Martinez. And he did it again during an interview with Jordy Culotta. And it was like, whoa, okay, he's really making a point. This guy who's been injured, a guy who you think is going to factor big in the guard battle, you know, against maybe Anthony Bradford, Cardell Thomas, Tremont Shorts coming in the transfer portal. But you could also use Anthony Bradford at left tackle. You could also, you know, there's a lot of different combinations with these guys. Garrett Dellinger, I think, you know, I wouldn't doubt that he could almost play every position on the offensive line if LSU needed him to. I think almost the challenge itself would get him going. The offensive line, defensive backfield, secondary, so imperative, because it doesn't matter how genius your offensive coordinator is. It doesn't matter how great skill position players you have, or even how good your quarterback is. If you have a bad offensive line in the trenches, weak in the trenches, getting pushed around, and then in the secondary, if you cannot cover receivers in the SEC, you're not going to live.